So I was thinking about this recently. There are tons of individual pathways that you can take to get rich. However, you can clump all of these pathways, for the most part, into 5 categories. There are 5 general ways that people take to get wealthy or to get rich. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So we're going to start off with number 1. And number 1 is pretty much the only way which you don't really have much control over, but it is important to mention. We're not going to spend too much time on it. This is an entrepreneurship channel. And so this one is, inherit it or marry into it. So this is a really unpopular thing to talk about on an entrepreneurship channel, but I have to mention it because there are lots of billionaires out there that actually inherited their wealth or married into it. I'll give you 2 examples here. And these can be on the millionaire level too, on the less wealthy level. So one example is the Walton family. So Sam Walton, the guy who created Walmart, he had a bunch of kids. He had a litter of kids. I think they had 6 or 7 of them or somewhere around there. And they're each worth between like 20 and 30 or 40 billion dollars a piece, maybe even more than that. And so they didn't really do much. Some of them worked in the company. I think maybe most of them did. And then they inherited their shares in Walmart. What do you know? They're all worth billions and billions of dollars just by being born from this one guy's, area. So you can't really do much about that. You just got to be born with the right parents. That happens. That's the way society is. So it sucks for some people. It's really good for some people. So, and the next one, example is just marry into it. So this is usually, generally speaking, it's usually a woman marrying a rich guy. Sometimes it can go the other way, like Oprah's husband. See, no one knows who Oprah's husband is. His name like Stedman or something like that. But that's another example of that. So just marry into it. That's something that not a lot of people have control over. Sometimes it's dependent on looks and meeting, some older person, right? That's usually how those relationships kind of go. However, there's the examples like Steve Jobs. So Steve Jobs, he obviously passed away a few years ago. He married a woman named Laurene Powell, I believe is her name. And when he passed on, he gave everything he had to her. And so she's worth billions of dollars now. I don't know what she does in the Apple company, but she owns a large portion of that company, plus she got all of the assets that Steve Jobs had. So she's a billionaire now because she married into it. Now, I don't want to detract that from a characteristic standpoint. I don't want to say like, she's a gold digger, or anyone that marries into money is a gold digger. Usually, most of the time, there's some sort of love involved and they're both equally compatible in some sort of way, right? So I don't want to take anything away, but marrying into money is one of the ways people, one of the pathways people take to get wealthy. And that happens. We see that on the billionaire list. They're littered over that, people who inherit it or marry into money. So we're going to move on to number 2 here, which is more entrepreneurship talk for most of you that watch this channel. So this is, we'll just mention this here. So this is the constant worker or saver. And so we see this a lot from, I see this personally a lot from people that have come from another country. A lot of immigrants come over here, they work 2 jobs, work 14, 15, 16 hours a day. Maybe they make, $80K a year, and what they do is they live very frugally. They will make, $80K a year working 2 jobs, and they will only spend, $30,000. So they will take home, let's just say that they take home $50,000 and they save it, they just put it in the bank and they do nothing. And that's what they do. And that's how they get rich. And over the course of 40 years, guess what? You're a millionaire. So there are lots of problems with this. There are lots of good things about this. So obviously this is like the American dream, right? People coming over from a different country to work really hard to save up to retire a millionaire and living a good life, hopefully having a family. That's the American dream. That's what this is right here. However, the problem with this is that for the most part, it takes a really, really long time. It can take 40 years to finally start enjoying what you've done. It can take decades and decades and decades. And so that's why, that's becoming a lot more unpopular these days. People wanting to actually work tons of hours, 2 jobs, and then just save up over time. So I just thought I would mention that because, this is something, similar to what my grandparents did. They came over here, they were working for tons and tons of time. They didn't invest a lot of their money. They saved a lot of it up. Sure, they bought some real estate. We're going to get to that actually. They bought some real estate, but they came over here and eventually, they retired with a family, and obviously, I was born, they had some grandkids, and that's the Canadian dream. And so that's one of the pathways that the average person can take to get wealthy. It's just working 2 jobs. living frugally and just saving up. However, it takes a long ass time and I don't really want to do it that way. So we're going to move on to number 3 here. Number 3 is what you're taught. Number 3 is what you're taught by your parents most likely, which is the corporate ladder. The corporate ladder. This is what you're taught. You're taught to go to school, go to high school, get good grades, go to university, get good grades, get a good job somewhere. You get a good job, $40K a year, and then you work your way up. You work your way up through the company, and maybe one day you become some sort of manager, executive, making $250,000 a year. And then obviously once you're making $250K a year, you do that over the course of even like 5-10 years, then you're a very wealthy person, right? So the example that I like to use is like there's all those stories of like the cashier at some sort of McDonald's or something like that. And eventually they get promoted to, maybe they become a manager of one of their stores, and then maybe they get in touch with someone at the head office, they start building some connections, and all of a sudden they're at the corporate office, head of sales for some corporate company, making hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars a year as an executive at the company. So there are some problems with this. Now this is a safe way. This is a safe route that people take. When people like financial security, people like being employees of a company, this is the route that a lot of people take. Hopefully they work their way up through the company. Problem is that, yeah, sure, this usually can take about 10 to 20 years to get to a really good position. However, you have zero control over it. You have, not zero, but you have very little control. You have to go out of your way to take initiative, build a network, and so on. But at the end of the day, you got to have some sort of boss hire you or promote you. And that's the problem with this, the corporate ladder. And I was in the corporate world and it sucks. For me at least. I didn't like being told how much I got paid, what my position was, and so on. And so if you don't like that, like me, then this isn't for you. You got to move on to one of the next couple pathways here, which I'm going to talk about. And so, but for most people out there, for the vast majority of people on a statistical basis, these are the 2 ways that people get rich, that people think about getting rich, especially young people. Now, eventually it shifts into number 4 here. So maybe we should just move on to number 4. Because number 4 is the most common way that people become millionaires. Number 4 here. So number 4 is the investor. So these, I'll give you the example here. If you were to invest $10,000 of your salary, so even if you make $50K a year, you invest $10,000 of it at the age of 20 until the age of 60 or 65 or 70 years old, odds are you're going to retire a millionaire if you invest in the stock market or even real estate properly. But real estate's more of a business than I would consider the stock market, so that's why I consider real estate a little bit different. But if you're to just do 10K a year for 40 years, you'll probably become a millionaire. And that's the most common way that people retire with $1 million in assets. So whether this is investing on your own, which is preferred because you get an extra 1 to 2 percentage points in compound interest per year, could be the difference between you making $600,000 per year and $600,000 total in assets when you retire, or $1 million. That's the difference between investing on your own and investing usually through your company. However, there are a lot of millionaires that have 401ks because your employer matches a lot of the investment into your 401k, which is something that I've mentioned sometimes. If your employer matches, a $5,000 to $10,000 investment per year, then it might be worth looking into doing a 401k versus investing on your own. It might be worth looking into. So, but this is the most common way. This is the millionaire next door method, where you invest just a small portion, maybe 25 to 20% of your income. So for example here, you can do this. If you invest $10,000 per year, and again, you're making $50K a year, that's 20% of your income you're investing, which is, for some people, that's not a lot. That's not a lot of your money. And so that is the most common way to get rich. Just the millionaire next door. Just invest in stocks and ETFs in the long run. Invest $10K a year, and you'll be a millionaire when you retire. Obviously, the more you invest, the better it is. So if you were to put away 20K, 30K a year, then you can become a millionaire a few times over, correct? So that's the most common way that people get rich, the average person. However, there is one other way. One other way that is the most common way to get to that multi-millionaire status or higher. And if you've been watching this channel for a long time, you guys probably know what I'm going to talk about here. Number 5 is business. Starting your own business. Or not even starting your own business, but having shares in a business, having equity in some sort of business. So whether you're an employee, an executive that is owner of 5% of the company, that's usually, you're considered a business owner, you're an investor, you're a little bit of everything. However, just, starting your own business, your own side business is something that we see throughout millionaires across the world, across the United States, across North America, world, Europe, wherever. Owning your own business is one of the most lucrative things you can do if you are successful, if you build it properly. Yes. And so why is that? It's because you're taking risk. People always ask me, why do you think that certain, business owners deserve to get paid millions of dollars per year? And I'm like, well, they took risks. They worked really hard for it. They probably made no money for 2 years before they started making any profits, and then maybe takes 5 to 10 years to make millions of dollars. Sometimes more. Sometimes more years. Sometimes more money. Whatever. Do they deserve it? Yeah. They take a lot of risks when starting companies. The founders specifically, the founders of the company, deserve to make tons of money. If they make $1 billion company, they deserve to make millions of dollars per year. Meanwhile, the employees deserve to make $40,000 per year. They have that security. The business owners put in tons and tons of time into building the company so that they can hire people. That's the way I view it, and that's the way, I don't know what your guys' opinion is on business for the most part, actually. I think that you guys are along the same lines as me. Like, if you start a business, if you do everything properly, if you work really hard, you deserve to make millions of dollars per year. That's my personal opinion. Meanwhile, I always go onto the subreddits of, capitalism, or the conservative, which is, a lot of my economic views. Conservative, a lot of people agree with me. Then you jump on to like socialism or, liberal subreddits, which I still love paying attention to, and I see their points, but I get really angry when they see numbers like, how founders of companies that are worth $10 million, how the founders make $400,000 a year, meanwhile their employees make $40,000. Well, guess what? Like those founders were probably doing the jobs of the employees just 5 years ago. The thing about founders is that or people who start businesses, is they have a lot more skills than just generally than the employees have. The employees have very specialized skills for the most part. So graphic designers, amazing at graphic design. They're way better than the business owners ever were at graphic design. Someone in sales might be way better at sales than the business owner, right? However, at some point, the founder of the company probably had to do your job. And so that's something I like people to think about, is that the founders of companies, they get very wealthy, but they also have lots of skills, and most of the time they deserve it. And so that is one of the pathways to get rich here, is just starting your own business. So, I'll go back to my grandparents here, is that they came over here, and yeah, they started a business. They started many restaurants, and they ended up investing a lot of their profits into real estate, into only like 7 properties. Now, they ended up selling a lot of those. They had some troubles along the way. But it's something that anyone can do. If you're willing to take that risk to start a business, so whether this is starting an online business, a bricks and mortar business, even a franchise, well, I guess a franchise of a store is a little bit different because you're not technically like, if you open a McDonald's, you're not technically the owner of McDonald's, you're just the owner of a store, right? And so, but whatever that business is, it's the best path you can take. It is the most stressful for the first 2 years, but it is the most financially rewarding way to get rich. I mean, out of the list of all the billionaires, how many of them started their own business? 80%? More than that? 85%? More? Probably about more. I would say probably 85% actually made their fortunes, and then 15% inherited the billions of dollars. So that's just a rough example. I have no clue. But just think about it. How many of the richest people in the world started their own business? Odds are it's almost all of them. So that is the pathway that I recommend you take to getting rich. Start whatever it is, just even selling stuff on Amazon or eBay, you can consider that a business. If you start selling something, you can consider that a business. So anyways, I think I'm gonna wrap this video up with that. So I think I'd like to thank you very much for watching. What do you guys think of this, by the way? What's the way that you want to take? Do you want to be an investor? A lot of you like stock market stuff. So do you guys want to take the investor route, make 50K, 60K a year and just invest 10 to 20K a year in stocks and you become a millionaire when you're 40, 50, 60? That could be the path you want to take. Do you want to just get a good corporate position with some financial stability? Do you want to just work 2 jobs? Right? Work 2 jobs that you like and save up over time? Is that the way you want to go? Do you want to marry someone? Do you want to marry someone that's rich? Is that the dream for a lot of people out there? I'm actually really curious because I feel like your life's a lot more rewarding when you actually earn your money. I mean, I turn down money from my family all the time. They want to, help me with a down payment on a house. I'm like, guys, I got this. This was, about last year. I was like, guys, no, keep it. I want to do this all myself. Leave your money. Leave your money. Are you guys along the same lines? And so I understand from some perspective, if you're really poor, if you're in poverty, yeah, sure, it'd be good to at least find someone that you truly love that is in a better position than you. I completely understand that. It's really weird. I'm not of that mindset, I guess. I'm more of the mindset of start your own business, make your own money, do your thing. So where do you guys stand on all this? I'd like you to leave a comment. Which one do you want to do? And I'd like to thank you very much for watching. Subscribe to this channel. I upload business videos pretty much every day, twice a day sometimes now, twice a day for the most part now. Check out my stock market and wealth accelerator program in the link below. It'll teach you about business, stocks, my portfolio, what I invest in and so on, how to start a business, how to run a business. And yeah, that's it. So yeah, thank you very much for watching. You're all very beautiful people and I'll see you guys in the next video.